Hello, my name is Audrie Gordon, and I welcome you to day 6 of the Dataverse Advent Calendar. Today we're going to create a table. We might even do a table or two. We're going to learn first how to plan our table, what things that we need to think about in advance, and then we're going to just jump right into the Power Platform and create the table. So, the first thing I want to share with you is kind of how I sketch out my tables. And I might do this with paper and pen. You don't even need anything special. But you might want to use something that you can share with others. So you kind of want to plan your table with feedback from other people before you build it. This way you don't have to do trial and error while you're building it. So in this case, I'm planning to do 2 tables, which is the event table, which is going to be a way to assist my customers with their in-person events. And then on the second table that we may have time to do, we might not have time, depends on how it goes, we'll do an activity table, which is a different type. And if you need context on these types of tables, check out yesterday, because we did go into some contextual points about how we think of tables in general. So the event table, what did I sit and decide? What are going to be my column names, right? What will be easy for everyone to understand? What will be the data types? So each column in my table will have a data type. So I've put at the top of this screen an aka.ms link to all the Dataverse data types so you can see them all. But in these tables we're doing today, I chose the most commonly used ones. All right. Another thing you want to think about when you're thinking about your columns are they required or not? And my biggest tip to you when it comes to required fields is keep in mind that when you require a field, you block the user from creating that record until they can fill out that field. So maybe think of your required as the things that are required, like you cannot live without to even have a record of the event that's being planned. But there may be other things that you can add later, like maybe the number of attendees you'll add later. And the best later for all of your tables is really part of a business process flow. As the process moves from one stage to the next, that's where you can say, okay, at this point, we need field 1 and we need field 2 filled out. And we'll learn about that in another day in these 25 days of Dataverse value. On the other side, just to show you what an activity table kind of looks like, this is the site inspection. It's going to be inspection for the event. So that table will be related to the event. And basically, we're going to use it like a checklist. It's an activity that we're going to use as a checklist. We can do it right in the timeline. And basically, everybody has to check, is the hall clean? Are the laptops connected? And are the printed materials refilled in the little boxes where people can pull out paper materials? And in this case, all fields are required in order to complete the inspection on whether I want them to do this inspection in one swoop and then fill out the activity, or whether I like them to keep the activity open while they're doing it. That's the deciding factor as to whether these fields are required or not. If I want them to be able to reopen this form and add notes and work through it, then I might have all the required set to no. Okay, so let's go do it, right? I didn't mention defaults. But whenever you offer people choices, you might want to think if there's any default values that you might want to consider. And secret of secrets, down here on the bottom, we're going to take a sneak peek at a formula column. And this formula column is going to calculate how much money we have left from the budget. So let's go do it. So I'm going to stop the presentation here. And I'm working again in a developer environment. And I have previously created my solution called 25 days. I think we did this day before yesterday. But if you haven't already created a solution, just create a new one with the default publishers. You can name it 25 days, or you can name it event management, whichever you're more comfortable with. And then when you open it, it'll be blank. Now, the only thing I have pre-done just to save time is I've added a choice. So here in your solution, when you click on new, under more, you have choice. So this is a situation where the venue or the location of the event is only going to be from 3 places we support. And since those 3 places that we support events in are consistent and will be reusable across many applications, I went ahead and said new choice and set up one called venue. And if you notice how I set this up, basically I just named it venue, which is another word for location, and I gave it 3 options: Microsoft Conference Center, Seattle Conference Center, and the Vegas Conference Center. These are the only 3 we support, so it doesn't make sense to give them a text box for them to type, because they're all going to type it differently, right? So choices help us standardize selections from people so that some people don't type MS Conference Center where others type Microsoft Conf, C-O-N-F dot center. So it kind of standardizes what people select. And here I'm driving our policy as well, because they can't pick something else. They can only pick the 3 that we support. And there are reasons for this. We've negotiated costs with these places, right? Okay, so we're going to close that down. That's the only thing I have in the solution. And after you create it, you save it. Now, let's go ahead and create our event table. So I'm just going to click on tables. I am still inside of a solution. Again, this is a solution we created a couple of days ago, but we're inside this solution, and we're going to just up here at the top do new table. Please note that you could create this table in the regular Dataverse tables UI, but here, putting it into the solution, you're going to save some time later trying to get your solution pulled together. Might as well create stuff that you're doing directly in the solution. So we're going to choose table, and we're going to call this event. And notice that I didn't say the plural of this. I just said the singular, because Dataverse is going to give me a plural name. All right. And I'm just going to put a description of customer events. Because this takes a little bit of collaboration. So whenever you have some collaboration involved where you might need to keep each other updated with what's happening, I always try to enable attachments. Even if they wanted to add a picture as an attachment, you know, that kind of thing, I like to give them the freedom to do that. I'm going to leave the defaults because this is a standard table. All right. And I'm just going to say save. So this is an upgrade from the last time, because we used to, I don't know, maybe a year ago, you could create your table and your columns, and then you had to remember to press save, because if you navigated away and you didn't press save, it might not get saved. So now all the saves are integrated into the dialog panels for creating your table and creating your columns and so forth, right? When you get the table, it's only going to give you 1 column, right? Which is the required one, which is name. Let's add the ones we want. So I'm going to add about 5. Let's add the ones with different data types. So we're going to add event title, and that's the title of our event. And then this is a single line of text, and this is text. So this is the simplest data type. It does help you control that they don't type 5,000 characters in here, or that it gets too long. We want short, concise titles. By default, this optimizes at 100 characters. If you're more accustomed to things like from SharePoint, I think it was 255, you're welcome to change this. My favorite is like 150 for a title, right? But you can put whatever you'd like. And so that's our first column, and that was the simple text type. Let's do our second column, and this is the purpose. So this is the event purpose, and in this case, what are we looking to do? We're looking to capture the customer's success factors. So what do they think would be successful for that event? All right. Now this, because it could be multiple things, I'm going to go ahead and make this a text area, which gives a little bit more space on the form, but I don't really need anything else, right? Just to give me a bit more to type. Again, I can set this as a maximum character type of whatever I'd like. I believe if you start getting too high, it'll tell you when you go above the maximum. Maximum here is 4,000. You know, maybe I'm not looking for more than 1,000, but again, you can control what you'd like to do. And for the most part, this is a little bit of trial and error. How much space do you need? Okay, so then next column is going to be the venue. Okay, so, and this is the location of the event. And this is that choice field. Remember that we already made. So when you have a global choice field, you can create a choice in your table that syncs with it. So I'm going to go ahead and sync this with the global choice that I made. And if I look on this list, we'll see venue here. All right, and I'm going to make the default choice the Microsoft Conference Center because that's where we hope to have most of our events because that's the most cost efficient. All right, so now we're going to hit save, and that's the venue. So far, you didn't see me mark anything as required, did you? Maybe I'll do that on one of these. Next one here is the start date. So this is the first day of the conference. And this is a date and time. Now I'm going to keep this very simple and just get date only. I'm also going to set it as date only in my time zone adjustment. This way I don't want it really messing with my date. Just leave the date as I type it. Okay? And there's my start date. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing for the end date. So we'll do end date. And that will be date and time date only with the same thing on the time zone adjustment date only. And now let's do some numeric values. These are fun. So I'm going to do column, and now I'm going to input the number of attendees. Now this may be an estimate when we start. Start with an estimate of attendees, but please validate actuals before closing this event. Okay, and then this is just going to be a number because we don't have people in 4.5 people, and the format is going to be the no special format. We just want that whole number. This is just the number of attendees. Now, one thing I will point out to you is there's minimum values and maximum values, and for the most part, our conferences will have at least 2 people. So you might want to set a minimum value because it'll never be negative, right? So, and this will prevent people from accidentally typing -2, which I doubt they do. And then the maximum value might be whatever it is that your conference center holds, right? Maybe that's 50,000. But you decide what these minimum and maximums are, and that way they'll get help when they're filling out the forms. All right, so that's that one. Now let's put in some money details, right? So we're going to put in a number for the budget, what our customer wants to spend, and we're going to put a place where people can add the actual cost. Now, actual cost can be updated through workflow. Every time an expense is reported for this conference, it can automatically update that field. All right, so let's do those 2 fields. Let's do the budget field, which is customer maximum budget for this event. And then we're going to do that as currency. And you do have a minimum maximum here. We don't take anything less than 2,000, by the way. So that's just a business policy. If you've got a budget lower than 2,000, you probably don't need our help, right? And so the maximum value, I'm not going to change that because I don't care if you want to pay me billions of dollars, that's fine. All right, so then I'm going to hit save. There's my budget. And now I'm going to insert the actual cost expended. And this will be my place where we will continue to add expenses so we can track our budget, right? So actual cost, total expended dollars from budget, and this is going to be currency as well. And again, there will be no negative numbers, so we'll just start that at 0 and hit save. Okay, and then lastly, I'm going to do a little sneak peek at a formula column. Let's try to calculate the remaining budget based on the actuals. Calculates remaining funding based on budget and actual value, actual cost. Okay, this I will pick formula, which is in preview. So make sure you have preview in your URL for your environment, and you'll be able to use this formula column. When you start typing, it'll give you IntelliSense that picks up on the columns within this record. And so I can say budget minus actual cost. I want to avoid the ones with the base in parentheses. That's for currency translations. And basically that's it. So it's going to calculate the difference between the actual and the budget so that we know how much money we have left. And that's the end of that table. Okay, so we can see how this table works in a couple of ways. First, here I like to add everything that I added, in my, that I had planned to see. So the event title, the purpose, the venue, the start date, the end date, the number of attendees, the budget, the actual cost, and the remaining costs. Those are all the custom columns that I added, and then I can see them here, right? So I just kind of validate that I didn't forget anything. And the last thing I'm going to do is associate this event with our accounts, with our customers. So I'm going to create a new column, and it's just going to be called account ref. And this is basically what is the account that is, sponsoring this event. And so I'm going to use a lookup, and that lookup will look up to the account table. All right, so now because I'm doing this, I'm creating a lookup. What I have just created very easy without thinking too hard is a relationship between this table and our customer table, right? And so you will see once this finished savings, I'm going to click on relationships, and you're going to see that there's a relationship already built. So the easiest way to build a relationship is to create a lookup column. And you can see here it is created right here. And it's a many to one. So whenever you're creating the lookup from the table, you're creating a many to one relationship. Many events for one customer. All right. I think that's good enough. Now, when we create this table, we don't have any views and forms. So I'm going to go ahead and do both, right? So I'm going to go into forms and click that main form. We'll have a whole day where we can focus on views and forms, but I do want you to be able to kind of see what this looks like. All right. I'm going to go up here and add a new section in this. So I'm just going to go to my components, and I will add a one column section right here. And this section I'm going to call relevant dates. And this is where I will put my two fields, start date and end date. And I am literally just dragging and dropping. This couldn't be easier. All right. Now up here, I want some more stuff. The owner name, I'm going to put it up into the header. And I'm also going to put that budget information up into the header because most people aren't messing with those too often. So I'm going to put the budget, the actual cost, and publish that form. And then I'm also going to create a view for my events. As soon as that stops spinning, now I can click back. And now I want to go back to the table and go to the views of this event table and edit the main one. See the default one at the top here? We're going to edit that and drag the columns that we created. All right, so I don't need the created on. I'm just going to remove that. I'm going to put the account reference here. I'm going to put the event title, the event purpose, the That's how fast it is to create a table, and a few table dependencies, which is if you have a table and you're going to do model driven, good idea to go ahead and create your forms and your views right away. These are default forms and views. You can edit the ones that are built in out of the box, or you can create your own. And now you can test this. And the way I like to test this is by using the account field. Now notice it added the account table for me. You didn't see me do that, did you? But because I made a relationship with the event to the account, it put that in there for me. All right, so really easy to use. Now if I go ahead and use this and say create an app, and this is my test app, let's just do a little test. We'll let this go ahead and create for us a model-driven app so that we can test the functionality of this. Now we've got the accounts. Now, because there's a relationship there, I don't really need to add the event table. It will assume it, right? So if I go into the first one here and we're looking, you'll notice that I have related events. Okay? So right away I have the events here, and I can say new event. The 16th, then I'm going to pick January 2023 again, and then I'm going to go all the way to the 20th. All right, and now the other thing I'm going to add here, and you probably add this only at the first creation, is my budget. And notice I have a budget of $50,000. Now I did invest in down payments for food, and so I've already spent $10,000. So why didn't the calculation occur right away? Because I do have to save the record. The calc happens on save, right? And now you can see I have a remaining budget of $40,000. And so back in a datum, if I ever kind of look at my related events, I will see that one. Again, the 4 things you're thinking about, you're planning the title of the column, the type, and I gave you a list of the data types, whether it's required or not, and what defaults you want to preset. Be careful with defaults because they can be helpful, but some people just let them slide. And in words, anyway, since it's already selected, they let it slide. So whenever you want them to explicitly make a choice, set your defaults to none. And then you can decide when you want to require fields or not. For our 6th day, I think that was quite a bit to cover, but it also showed you just how easy it is to create tables. So I'm going to look forward to talking to you again tomorrow for day 7 of the Dataverse Advent Calendar. All right, thank you so much. Happy holidays.